Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Sorry for the crappy quality of the video. Just typing this on my laptop here at work. Just thought I'd talk about this subject because we've been brewing for the Frontier format. We're going to be doing Frontier for the first time for Friday Night Magic. Probably going to kick it off with some extra prize support just to try to get people interested in the format. And so I did a Market Monday video. In fact, I'm still editing Monday's Market Monday video. I wanted to do an overall well done edited video. I want to do one of those per month as basically as a shout out to my patrons over at Patreon. A lot of people have signed up for that. Well, a few people, not a lot, have signed up for like the support the Market Monday. And one of the things I promised was a fully edited Market Monday per month. However, it's taking me a lot longer than I thought it would be. And yeah, so the content might not be that relevant by the time it gets out. I gave my top 10 cards I think you should be investing in for the Frontier format, as well as a big ramble for the Frontier format about how I like it so far and how I think it's a lot more diverse and has a lot more of a potential than people are giving it credit. Now, I've read a bunch of comments, heard a lot from pros, more of the more celebrity type people in the Magic the Gathering community, bigger voices. A lot of people hate the format. And the common misconception that I keep hearing is it's just going to be Jeskai Black. Jeskai Black and Collected Company. That's it. That's all it's going to be. And that's the only thing that ever can happen. Because I think people are still they remember too much those standard seasons, how powerful those decks were in their respected standard seasons. Now, I remember back to, as a brewer, one of the things that I did a ton of is try to find a different path to victory than most people. So I remember competing against those decks and always thinking, wow, if this card just existed, I could combat against that strategy. Like if a card from the previous block existed. And as today, I was reminded of that sort of thing. It was going back into Origins and specifically Origins and M15 and seeing how well some of those cards, like the Convoke mechanics and the Artifact mechanics out of both Origins and M15, pair extremely well with Kaladesh. And then we have another Aether Revolt set coming out, which is most likely going to have a ton more artifacts to kind of work with the Artifact Tribal. I've been able to put together some fast Metalwork Colossus decks in Frontier. I'm taking them extremely quick with some of these, the Convoke Lord, and also the artifacts reduce their mana cost. You can do some insane stuff. Ornithopter is still in the format. I'm talking about just like ripping through your deck very, very quickly. And so I do consider this to be a fixed modern. A lot of people are saying, well, it's just going to be a weaker, crappier, less diverse modern. A lot of us that are ex-modern players, I think I can put myself in that category now, do not like playing modern just because of how restrictive it is to build decks and how unfun, how linear, how coin flippy the matchups have started to feel within the past 2 years. I think ever since the Eldrazi Winter, after banning a Splinter Twin and then, of course, the Ayavugan problem, is I actually think that Ayavugan was a lasting effect because it got people playing a lot of these coin flip decks and trying them out and building them because it was one of the only strategies that could actually compete with the Eldrazi deck. Well, you're going to do something quick and unfair. I'm going to try to do something quick and unfair. And I think the format is ruined forever. I don't think that Modern will ever go back to its glory days, even if there is a lot of aggressive bannings and aggressive other things that I suggest in some of my videos in the past. I think that it's now got kind of a player base that likes to do a lot of combo. Our modern tournaments are incredibly ruined. We had 6 people, and then I'll show you the store real quick. So you can see my mess. Whoa, sorry if this is going to get way Travis Wu style, except this camera's terrible. This is what happens when you're a paper brewer, by the way. See if you can see the mess. Got cards everywhere. Okay, this is working terrible. But you know, through the shop we have table space for. We have table space here for. There's a few scrubs playing back there. So we've got long tables here in another room that has this many tables. So what is it? We can probably fit like 8 on this table, 8, 16. I don't know. So a good plus 25 plus people we can easily fit just in our store without putting up extra tables. We had a whopping 6 people with a full store that wanted to play in Modern. I refused to play. A bunch of other people refused to play. And one of those main reasons is we always know of the guys that do play, there's always going to be one Infect deck and one Ad Nauseam deck. So right there, there's going to be some pretty terrible matchups, you're guaranteed. to have throughout the night. And we have a few other players play. I know there's a combo Elves that always gets played, and an Affinity and a Dredge deck as well. That's kind of our metagame here at this store. And I think that the design team is, even though I still complain, and my yesterday's video was complaining about Smuggler's Copter and Emrakul, they are nothing compared to some of the busted things that Modern has. Some of the really ridiculous things that are not working as intended. I like to really point out ad nauseum and some of the combinations of ad nauseum, because none of those decks are actually working as designed intended. And maybe we'll find some exploits in the future with Frontier. But I like the idea of Frontier starting up. That's kind of the same thing with Modern. People don't realize that Modern, all the cards sent mirrored in forward were a lot more fair than cards that existed in Legacy. Or a lot more, the design was better. Magic has evolved. The design has actually gotten better with balancing cards. Nowadays, they have an entire paid design team that works, they probably spend way more hours than what was used the typical Urza Saga block back in the day. I mean, that was still back in the time when Wizards was just throwing, together cards here and there and having them, a lot of them just bust each other. There was tons and tons of cards that broke each other even in their standard formats at that particular time. So I think that it's a lot unwarranted when people just start saying that Collected Company and Jeskai Black are just going to ruin the format, 4-color decks are just going to ruin the format. Most Eternal formats, that's one of the reasons why you play Eternal formats, is good mana. Standard is the bad mana. Draft is the bad mana. All these other Eternal formats, traditionally, Vintage, Legacy, Modern, have always had fast mana, or not fast mana in particular, had good mana. So you play whatever you want. And I think that is an advantage, not a disadvantage to Frontier having the fetch lands. And as I've stated in other comments, that fetch lands are going to be reprinted inevitably in Standard. So, and we're probably going to get the pair, the sister pairs to the mountain or the dual lands out of Battle for Zendikar for the enemy colored. So those are a matter of time that they're probably going to be reprinted, as well as the fast lands will probably be reprinted some point in Standard as well from the Scars of Mirrodin. So the mana base is just going to get better, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. People want to play good cards. Now, yes, right now there is a lot of good stuff decks, but there is a lot of innovation. We have had 3 major tournaments. You can go check this out at MTG Goldfish. 3 I would consider major in the Frontier realm, at least having at least 40 players plus. And the top 8s of all 3 of those have been 8 unique, diverse decks with mid-range, aggro, mid-range, aggro, combo, and control all being represented in the top 8. And the top 16 and the top 32 are also very, very diverse. So we're starting to see, of course, a lot of the strategies that existed in the previous standard sets. Yes, Jeskai Black is there, and yes, it's popular. Yes, UR Prowess is popular. The Collected Company decks are popular. The Court of Calling decks are popular. The Rally Ancestors decks are popular. The Insul Artifact decks are popular. But there is so much potential and cards that just didn't really do much in their standard formats that I think are going to be very relevant. I think a particular card right now in Kaladesh is going to be very insanely relevant, which is called Authority of the Consuls, for example. It's an extremely good hate card versus some of these fast decks. Also, one of the reasons why you don't see some cards seeing play right now in the Kaladesh format is they just don't have enough to push them over the top. A lot of green decks, at least green aggro decks, are suffering because they don't have really aggressive cards. We'll go back a couple sets, and now we have some extremely aggressive cards in the green, for example. Same with mono red. And there is a ton of cards that can just be easily put into archetypes like I was suggesting with like the Metallurgic Summonings or the Metalwork Colossus. Both of those are just barely missing something to be pushed over the top of being competitive in the metagame. Well, go back a few sets, and they're good. Scred was a deck I would say that probably wasn't viable right when Modern came out, and finally got viable as more sets came out and a whole archetype was born. And I think we're going to see more of that actually happening than less of that happening with the more sets in Frontier. So I'm staying optimistic, and it's mainly just because after looking for, I think we were trying to put together an Soul Artifact deck and a Sphinx's Tutelage deck, and I was coming across cards like, oh my god, this card is going to be busted in like an Artifacts Matter type deck. I was just looking through like sideboard cards. Remember this one that actually was really, really good in Affinity? The Girapur Aether Grid. with the Convoke card, we're already starting to establish ways. We're only looking for a decent little way to draw cards, which I think we pretty much, I'm pretty much sure we can find a way to draw pretty reasonable. You can Convoke out a ton of cards with the Convoke Lord, and then just tap them all. You can lock the board out with Grid. There is a lot of just untapped potential. We have been joking around with like a Deploy the Gatewatch type strategy with Big Garrick, with the black-green Garrick. They can completely... Speaking of Scred, I think like a Scred type archetype will probably work just with Roasts and a few other cards like the just the good removal we have in red right now, and just play heavy control with Chandra and maybe Sarkon. There's plenty of those type of cards and plenty of just archetypes that I do not think have been explored. And so I hope that everyone else can just remain optimistic. Just go back. I challenge everyone to go back and look at Origins and M15 in particular and just see how well it pairs with Kaladesh. Kaladesh was just missing. It was just a lot of awkward strategies. With the Panharmonicon was almost there. A lot of the metal, the Colossus was almost there. The summonings deck, the Metallurgic summonings was almost there. Now you get Jace's Sanctum back in the mix. We could have like a mono blue nothing type strategy that actually compete. Jeskai Black, it was good, but it wasn't unbeatable. Mardu Green, Rally Ancestors. Rally's shut down by a lot of cards right now. The Howled Moonlight is one that's particularly good. Anafenza, Kalidas, a lot of those cards are very, very good against Rally. And I don't think there will be this big silver, bullet type deck that will just stranglehold the metagame. And if there is, who is against a ban list? Who is against maybe a community of people suggesting a ban list? Like, I think it will be only a matter of time before Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, Become Immense, and Temur Battle Rage. Those are the four that if I were to start a pre-ban, those are the four cards I'd pre-ban, because Become Immense and Temur Battle Rage are most likely the two that are the easy to be exploited out of the pump spells. And otherwise, we're just going to like either Hexproof/Pump type thing that, very uninteractive, linear type strategy that most people don't like to play against. And Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise, we all know they've been banned in every format. Treasure Cruise is even banned in Pauper. It's just a matter of, that was a bad design card, and I think that they're more the exception than the rule to the Frontier format. Most cards are actually underwhelming compared to kind of overwhelming with the design potential. So that's just kind of my little Frontier update. We're seeing it everywhere. All these people coming out with videos about Frontier, and the vast majority of them I think have been negative, especially on most of the YouTube community members. I think that literally it's just me and the Manosaurs, which I find kind of funny. I won't get into it because let bygones be bygones. But anywho, it seems like we're the only two people actually promoting this format, and everyone else thinks this is wild garbage. Well, I'm done with Modern. I'm never going to touch Legacy. It's just out of my price range, even as a store owner. It just doesn't seem to be something that I want to invest in or get into, especially when Turn 0 or Turn 1 decks exist in the format. And yes, they can be countered by a Force of Will, but that sounds like a great times, let me tell you. I'm looking for a Modern light. I'm looking for, when Modern just barely came out, we had a lot of very, 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 very interactive and fun games. And it got me to a Pro Tour playing Soul Sisters, and that entire day, I had to outplay my opponents. It wasn't just like an auto run, I win on turn 3, or ad nauseum out type thing, and not worry about just solitaire the entire day. And I had to make specific plays and answer specific strategies and play my heart out to get there. And that's the type of format I'm looking for right now. Unfortunately, Standard, as my last video yesterday was talking about, most of the Standards have failed in the past 5 years. We've had a few good ones, but most of them have just been overridden by really, really OP strategies. And then, Modern turning into this, divulging into this solitaire format, or kind of linear format. I am desperate for another format that I think that could A, be enjoyable, and B, just be a brewer's paradise. And looking through M15 and Origins and all of these cards that were so fringe playable that now get all these other pieces that hook up with each other, it is just a brewer's wet dream. And that's exactly the kind of mentality that I'm in right now. So we're going to try to show you some decks. We're going to do a tournament, and we've got some cool things coming up with the website. Hopefully I can get them implemented in time, and we'll try to get some deck lists of people in my community, see what they brew together, and we'll post it and let you know the results. Maybe I'll do some live commentary or something like that if I can get better internet and better stuff. So again, I apologize for the terrible quality. This is just off my webcam, off my laptop, but hopefully it's good enough to start a discussion. Kevin with BrokeDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.